to the Accommodation Show. I am very excited to welcome Alvin Hope Johnson to this episode. He is an absolute legend in the accommodation space, in the real estate space, in the short-term rental space. He's been doing it for a fair while. Welcome to the show, Mr. Alvin.
Boy, thank you so much, man. It's an honor to be here with you. I look forward to having a great conversation. I've got a few years of experience in the accommodation space, so it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
Beautiful. And what I love about you is your positive energy, your empathy. When we just started talking, one of the first things you said is, I'm having a great day. And I think that's really important to be that way, to be successful in business. Look, I would love you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business, what you're up to in the real estate game.
Sure. Well, I hold a couple of titles. I'm the president of Hope Housing Foundation, which is a nonprofit housing organization where we have bought older assets and converted them into really nice places and given our tenants a place where they get to live instead of where they have had to live. Big difference in living there only because the rent was cheap and there was no other place to go. And now the place is really nice, and now they get to live here because now it's an opportunity to have a better life. And we love having the ability to do that. And then I have an education company called Multifamily Monopoly, and I'm the president of that. And that's our education platform that teaches people how to buy multifamily assets, build them, construct them, own them, and manage them. So those are the two big jobs that I have. Hope Housing Foundation has transitioned in the last 3 years from buying assets to becoming a developer. Mm-hmm. So we're actually on target to build about 20,000 units of housing in 5 years.
Wow.
So that's a big goal, but it's super, super exciting. And we're going to start with about 1,000 units this year.
Yeah, wow.
So, pretty good.
That's huge. That's a huge amount of work and a huge project. So maybe we should start off. Well, actually, you know what? Before we go to that as to what you're up to, you've been in the game for 38 years doing real estate, and I can imagine in that time things have changed dramatically. Would love to hear about, I guess, I don't know, in short, your learnings, or maybe tell me about the differences, the changes that you've seen in this space in that time.
One of my favorite sayings, Bart, is methods are many, principles are few. Methods always change, but principles never do. So the reason I said that, over my course of the 38 years, I would say that about 20 plus of that has been in the financial side of that, from owning mortgage companies to financing now our multifamily assets. And some of the things that I've seen come and go in the financial side of the real estate has been loans that have been non-qualifying loans, toxic loans, loans that have melted down the world economy. And we saw that in the 90s, and they went away in the early 2000s. They came back in the late 2000s, and then they went away after a few years. And now listening to some of our mortgage friends on Clubhouse every day, some of those same types of loans are coming back into the market. There's so much cash out there, and they need somewhere to deploy that cash. And maybe they think whoever they are, think that buying some of these large pools of mortgages is a great place to park money. So I've seen that come and go. And as you know, I'm an older guy now. I'm in my mid-50s. And I see so many people making some of the same purchases, ill-informed about what could happen in the next 12, 24, 36 months. And who knows, what if we experience another lockdown here that could last 6 months? Man, that would turn the world upside down, or turn the states upside down. And so we see a lot of those things happening now, and I'm ultra cautious about some of the things that I do outside of my everyday job. So.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so a lot of what you're talking about as well is risk, right? So how much risk you see in the market at any particular time. You're talking about things working cyclically. Yep. Can you still hear me? Yeah. So you might actually find them a tiny bit choppy, but hopefully it'll be enough for you to hear the question. Is that all right? Yeah. I think there's a tiny bit of a delay as well. So if I ever talk over you, it's because of that delay. Okay, yeah. So we can see those changes happening cyclically. So over your 38 years, you're saying that you're seeing things happen over and over again. So that gives you an advantage now looking at the future market, and you're saying, you know what, yes, I am going to develop into this market. We're going to do these 20,000 units. Tell me about that project and kind of what that looks like.
Well, we believe that we can start with 1,000 units of housing this year, get 1,000 units started. Next year, 3,000 units. In 2024, 5,000 units, 2025, 8,000 units, 2026. We would eclipse 10,000 units. What that looks like is we're using a really great building system called structurally insulated panels. Those SIP panels save about 30% of our construction time. They actually give us a better building envelope. And because of that, we have a real green technology. There's no air transference from unit to unit. So it's much better quality housing. The reason I thought about this, Bart, is, the housing stock is not getting any younger if nobody's building it. And prices have escalated so much that purchasing 20-year-old assets with an insurmountable amount of maintenance on them really didn't make that much financial sense to me for the long haul. If I wanted to buy some assets today and maybe 3-5 years from now, sell them and make some money, yeah, that'd be great. But when I'm looking out 10, 20, 30 years, what will this organization look like in 50 years? Somebody's got to start doing something new at some point, and I figured now's a great time to do it. There's a need for housing. There's a need for quality, affordable housing, and we found a mechanism that will allow us to do it. And so we're going to garner a lot of support from some of the large institutions that say they have money for green building and for affordable housing, and we're going to go out and start this task. 20,000 units sounds like a lot, but it's only 10 200 unit developments or 100 200 unit developments. And in 5 years, that's not, it's not that much.
And so, obviously, you're a man with a lot of ambition. You don't take on a project like this without really wanting to hit it big, and that's what I do like about our American cousins is that you guys really go for it when you go for it. You dream big, Tell me about your mindset with that, and why not go a little bit smaller? What gives you the confidence as well to say, you know what, I think I can pull this one off? Because I don't imagine you would be someone that would waste their time trying to do something like this without the real belief that it really can happen.
Well, one of my thoughts is if I shoot for 20,000 and I land at 5, I hadn't done bad, right? But the thing that gives me the thought that I could is I just think I can. I went to the manufacturer of our panels when earlier this year and said, I'm gonna bring you guys 1,000 units of housing this year. And they said, we've been in business 30 years. We've never done 1,000 units. I said, well, good, get ready. Now that means I will have orders turned in for 1,000 units this year, which means we will have those projects started. So that means next year, you know what your year looks like. And then the following year, we're gonna do this. But I also negotiated a way with me bringing them 1,000 units, that they would give us an opportunity to have a second plant, that we would fly their flag and basically grow their business, but expand our territory for a couple of reasons. They won't be able to handle that much volume out of one plant, even running 3 shifts. But my thought is there's so many people, Bart, that have been nonviolent offenders that are in the penal system today here in the U.S. that will never get a career or an opportunity to have a job that they would be proud of. And with us taking on a task of building 20,000 units, the way we're building them, you don't have to be a traditional carpenter to build this. So I believe that we can change a lot of lives, give people a lot of great jobs, start a whole lot of new businesses, with people that would not have an opportunity to do that if we were not in business. So not only are we going to start with the grassroots of giving people jobs and careers that they would never have, but we're going to wind up on the other end of that spectrum with the best quality housing stock in the U.S. within 5 years.
That's incredible. And like I said, I just love the ambition, and I love the fact that, when you dream big like that, you can create a lot of opportunities for a lot of people, and really change things for them, as you're doing it. So, if I may, if we go back down into sort of, let's get into the weeds a little bit into this particular project. You go and you say, okay, so this year we're going to do 1,000 units, and I imagine that there's going to be all sorts of different hurdles that you'll have to come across, and I imagine that one of the first ones is getting the investors or the money in place to be able to to build this dream out. So what does that part look like for you and for you guys?
See how my gray hair? It's one bite at a time. I'm looking at a picture here in my office that has a picture of a butterfly on one side of a seesaw and an elephant on the other side. And the caption says, "Dreams weigh more than excuses." So what that looks like for us in putting this together, starting with the first deal, getting the first deal financed, and then presenting the opportunity for everybody else that they know that, man, we get this one done. There are 4 or 5 other projects right behind it this year. So the financing, as you said, getting the investors on board, but then finding the lenders that, man, you've never done this before. No, I haven't, but I have assembled the best team in the country that has done this before. I just happen to be the mouthpiece and the glue that put everybody together. So I've gotten buy-in with that now. And so I got terms today, just today, when I said it was a great day. I got 2 of my lenders that were competing lenders that wanted to offer me 2 different terms. I got them together to work together so that this project could really take off and everybody would be proud of it. So I think that was a major feat, and that's the first 200-unit deal that we got that we'll start, and we have contracts on several other deals that'll get us towards that 1,000 this year.
Yeah, right. And is just in terms of the project itself, so the first 1,000 units, are they all in the same kind of location? I don't imagine they would be, but take it from a guy that's got no idea what you're up to. What does that look like?
What that looks like is working with a lot of different people all over the country that have opportunities of land that's already ready for us, meaning entitled and zoned for apartments, and working out arrangements to finance them, partner with them, pay them later, give them a premium for their land because they're going to put it into the deal with us. So literally, whatever it takes, but it starts with developing new relationships, new brokers, new property owners, doing podcasts and letting people know what the vision is. Somebody's going to hear this in your community and want to help, want to be a part of it. And that's how it all starts.
So would 200 be the minimum sort of size that you would kind of go in terms of one location? Would it be 200 units, or is it less?
The minimum is probably going to be about 150.
Yeah.
I have one deal that I just signed a contract on last week. It's 163 units, and it's in North Carolina. So I'm in Texas. That property is in North Carolina, 1,200, 1,300 miles away. I can't be everywhere at one time, but we have a contracting or construction company that has the presence all over the country. So we'll be able to literally do projects from Minnesota, which is way up northwest, to way east on the coast of North Carolina, to the middle of Texas, to out west, all simultaneous.
Cool. So I'm super curious. So that's the project that you're working on right now, and obviously garnering interest and sharing that dream. I think it's awesome, and I think it'll be lovely to be able to share that journey with you and learn about what's going on and keep people up to date as you're going, so they can add value and that sort of thing. In terms of so if we think about the audience, there's sort of two things. Like, yes, if you want to get on board, they can contact you, get in touch, and follow that dream and that journey and be on that journey. I'm curious from the other side. So you as a person, you are obviously leading this particular project. So even whilst you're setting all these foundations up, so that's quite capital intensive to have enough money to keep yourself going until all those deals and all the money starts coming through. And I imagine that there would be a bit of money or your core business which is supporting that next evolution. If that's okay, I'd love to hear about what that looks like, because that gets super practical for people that want to dream as big as you are dreaming.
Well, that's a very good point, because none of the developing the dream of 20,000 units today produces not $1 of income today. Fortunately, we have over 1,000 units of housing today that pay us residual cash flow and management fees today that keep the office open, keep the lights on, keep the salaries paid, that give us the ability to put these deals together. Putting these large deals together are pretty capital intensive, but the way we have been able to negotiate a lot of the contracts on the land has been with minimal dollars on the front end, meaning from $100 to $1,000 to tie up and take control of the land. And that control gives us the ability at that point to model out our financing. So we can literally have a $40 million, $50 million project in the hopper with as little as $1,000 invested on the front end, and not having to start spending any significant dollars until we start the engineering process and the true blueprints and planning for the development. So by the time we get to that point, we've identified sources of debt, we've identified most of the financial partners, or at least some of the initial partners that will help us go from thought process to inception. So there are typically some investors that don't mind taking that much of a risk on the front end with us because of the track record we've established, and so they come in with a couple $100,000 to get that started, and then by the time we get to closing, which could be 6 or 8 months later, they're able to be either taken out or left into the deal if they want to do that.
So yeah. Look, I've got so many questions, and going back to, I'm going to ask a few more about that kind of core business in a minute, because I think it's important to give context as to kind of that 38 years of experience. It's kind of like, yeah, I've done all this stuff before. I can see this gap in the market. It's going to work. I know it's going to work. I'll be the one who sort of plans this whole thing out. But if you're an investor and if you want to join this journey, obviously you're changing individuals' lives, mums and dads, I assume, is kind of where you like to be. Because I can imagine as well, there's other ways to get finance, and there might be some blended finance, and from where you get your capital. Now, just if you're a mum and dad, and I think you said 200,000, is it 200,000 in cash, or is it 200,000 in loans, sort of like as a balance? What is that entry point for mum and dad?
For a mom and dad that wanted to invest in a deal like this, typically it's a minimum of about $50,000. We use it typically for some of our deals are for accredited investors only, meaning that they have to have a net worth of $1 million or greater, with not counting the homestead, or an annual income of $200,000 annually for the last couple of years with no downturn in that for a single person, and I think it's $250,000 or $300,000 per couple. So having a minimum of $50,000 like that, it typically takes us about $200,000 or $250,000 to get to a place of closing. where we know we're going to close. A lot of times, most of that money is not at risk because, it's earnest money and we have 60 or 90-day due diligence processes that allow us to do everything that we want to do before anything goes at risk. So if we have to do large deposits, that money's never at risk. And then if we, once the money goes hard because we have satisfied our due diligence period, then, we could be into maybe $500,000 to $1 million, just depending on the size of the deal before we actually get to closing. Large deposits with the lenders.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to get our blueprints and engineering done, which could be a couple of $100,000, and that's typically where that money goes. Because by the time we get closed or get ready to close, we have to have blueprints and budgets and et cetera. So that's where I don't want to say the inherent risk lies, but that's where it lies initially.
Yeah. So 50 grand gets you in, and then the rest is provided by finance. Is that right? Or did I miss a bit there?
90% of it, yes. Yeah. Well, typically, we negotiated today a 90% loan on our deal. So the total deal is $40 million. So we negotiated between the two lenders that I talked to you about earlier, $36 million in debt and subordinate debt. Yeah. So that means we put in $4 million cash to get this $40 million asset built.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. That closes that part off, and I think that's a really nice way to sort of understand you work. Cool, because look, that part I don't think has changed. No matter what you're if you're investing in real estate, it's very, very similar across the board. If you're doing house and land and building it, or whether you're buying an asset which has already been built. So then going back to that kind of core business that you have right now and where all your experience comes from, what does that portfolio kind of look like in terms of, because you've said, I can see that's actually an aging portfolio and there's some inherent risk there anyway. So I feel that building something is better than us going and buying more stuff that's already built. I'd love to know what you've already got and what that looks like in terms of whatever you'd like to share with us.
Sure. Today we have left in our portfolio 1,024 units. That consists of one development that's 450 units, another development that, that 450 is actually two phases, 225 and 232 or something like that to equal 452 units. Then we have two more in Dallas. Those two in Dallas total 330 units. Those were built in, the first phase of it was built in 1980. The second phase of it was built in 2000. So one phase being 40 years old, the second phase being 21 years old. We've got another development in South Texas that is built in 1996. So about 26 years old. We've got another one down south that was built in 2004. So nothing younger than 15 or 20 years in our portfolio. We've had deals built in the 60s, and I can tell you with that came very systemic plumbing problems that cost us a lot of money just in everyday operations because of the plumbing problems. And I believe it was that particular asset that let me know I didn't want any more of these. I mean, we made great money on it. We paid like $6,500 a unit, and we sold it for $58,000 a unit or $60,000 a unit on 230 units. So we made decent money, but man, I'll tell you, all money is not good money. I'll just tell you. And it caused, it was cost prohibitive for us to fix it. So we were able to sell it to an owner that wanted to sink a lot of money into it. We had reached our threshold, our gross point of putting any more money in it. So this new guy was going to come in and why would he pay that much for something that was that old and that's what I just didn't want to get in the rat race of doing.
Yeah. So you've got that experience with the building. You're also trying to impact people's lives. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. because you've got the Hope Housing Foundation. I guess if I look at all the posters behind you, the story of Alvin is that if you can make impactful change for people, it's really worthwhile beyond whatever cash you make yourself. And you put a lot of effort into that as well, of changing things for people. And I understand that real estate is probably that method of doing it, of making that change for yourself and to build the wealth. I'd love you to talk to some of your reasons, some of your whys.
That's easy. I heard this statement, and I believe it to be so true, by Zig Ziglar, where he said, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't have the quote, but the more people that you can help make their dreams come true, the easier it is for yours to come true. So my mom raised me as a single parent. She was a giver. I have always, I've had so many issues as a kid, so I had to work really hard to fit in. So that made me become very conscious of certain things. So I'm a giver. I love to give. And so with that giving spirit and knowing that it's easier, you can get more bees with honey. That's a good than you do with vinegar. Right? So if I can help make your dreams come true, if I can give you something that you want, and I have the ability to do that, and if my ability falls in line with what I really want to do, then I'm going to be rewarded for that. Maybe not directly by you, maybe by the universe, maybe by God, depending on how you believe. I just believe that way. And so real estate is a people business. We have the best and the worst of people because it's in their home. If we can give someone a great place to live at an affordable price, and we can monetize that and make money in the process and partake in spoils that our lenders and partners can make money too, then that's a situation where 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 entities win, and I just get to be a part of that. So it's so much easier to do things with people than doing it by yourself. I believe you can go fast by yourself, but you can go far, deep, and wide with a group of people. And so I don't know where this line of thinking has come from. I used to own my own businesses, wanted to be the president and the boss and own everything, 100% of everything, until there's nothing but 100% of nothing left. And then I volunteered for a guy that had 16,000 units of apartments, and he owned 100% of nothing. But as a general partner in these deals, he controlled all the cash flow, and he was responsible for those developments. And so then I learned the power of partnerships and partnering with other people, and it just opened my eyes to a whole new arena of doing business. And after serving him for 13 months, he died in a car wreck, and I became the president of this $1.5 billion company. Just by serving someone else and trying to help make them better, I got rewarded with walking his company through a bankruptcy that got all of the investors their money back, and got me a wealth of experience that I could not have paid for.
So, right. And that opens a huge door there, just the power of partnerships. And I think that this is where we should start to wrap the episode up, because there's just been so many different topics of value. And just hearing about this journey and what you're doing is super fascinating. But the power of partnerships and collaboration, I think it's really easy to say, yeah, partner up. But also there are sort of the downsides of partnerships where they can be quite draining, where, people might not be aligned philosophically, or there might be more takers than givers, or that sort of thing. Finding good partners, what tips would you have?
Oh boy. Well, I think the alignment and principles have to be the same. You said that. I think that, we're dealing with so many partners that I don't have deep personal relationships with today. So the way we've done that is we have put together a product that they like. We understand that it fits in their box. And then there's a lot of responsibility that goes with our presentation that we have to live up to. So I think to answer that question, to find a good partner, you probably have to be willing to be a good partner. To find a good friend, you have to be willing to be friendly. And I think that with that kind of thought process, I haven't had any bad partnerships. Well, I have had one, but that one was one where I was giving and the partner was a taker.
Yep.
And it wasn't a reciprocal relationship, and we didn't have anything written on paper. We didn't have a partnership agreement or an operating agreement. I just went in blindly. Well, I went in knowing, thinking that it would be okay, and we don't ever do that again. So great partnerships just mean great cooperation and great lawyers that put together great partnership agreements.
I don't disagree with you at all. I really find that even as we're growing our business and we're 2 years into this particular startup's journey, is that when we look for people, we come from a space where like, oh, we know what we're doing, we've got all this stuff to give, but we don't operate that way anymore. We're more willing to put ourselves out there, and putting yourself out there actually means putting in work. You have to work pretty bloody hard to prove that you are a worthy partner, and then at that stage, the ones that are good will stick and they will become your partners, and the ones that don't get it, don't see the effort that you're putting in, they won't become your partners, which is good anyway. But I think that the biggest learning for me has been you got to work really hard at becoming a great partner first. It's not the other way around. Alvin, I think that we're done. I think that's a lot of the topics that I wanted to cover today, and to hear about your journey. I know that there's an awful lot of great things that you're doing. We didn't really cover the Hope Housing Foundation, but I think that we've covered sort of a lot of topics around the sort of the giving back, the community, the knowledge, the learning, and that sort of thing. So I do encourage anyone that's watched the episode or listened to the show to follow the show notes. There'll be links to all of Alvin's bits and pieces in there. If you want to get involved in what he's doing, then follow him there. Make sure that you follow him on Instagram. You can catch him on Clubhouse as well. He's on there from time to time, giving really good value. Alvin, thank you so much for contributing to our community, for spending the time to out of your evening to do this interview and to share your journey. Is there anything the community can do for you in return?
No, not for me, Bart. I am going to keep your country in prayer, you in prayer. I understand this lockdown has been, this current situation has been really taxing mentally and emotionally on a lot of people. And man, my prayers and grace go out to you guys, and hopefully some people make the right decisions pretty soon to help ease some of the tensions.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And look, I think we're a positive bunch, and we'll find a way through it. We'll fight our way through, and there will be better days ahead. But just being humble and practicing gratefulness and all that is so important. Once again, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to have this conversation, and I will see you around really soon.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.